Hello and welcome to this wonderful interview with a lady who has a passion and an occupation which is quite unusual, certainly here in Indonesia. Her name is Michaela Anselmini. She's from Italy but has been in Indonesia for some time. And she does something which we are in desperate need of as a country of artistic and artisanal people, people with great creativity. But one thing that's lacking in the creativity is the maintenance of our artworks. She is a restorer of art and has already done some major pieces for various people, but she'll tell us all about that. Hello and welcome, Michaela. This is Alistair Spears, the publisher of Now Jakarta, Now Bali, and the chairman of MVB Sustainability Advocacy. We're here to try and make things better, and you're one of the people who can help us. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much for hosting me.
Now, let's start off. Restoration. How did you get interested in restoration? You come from Italy, obviously a country with a huge riches in art. Is that what sparked this? Do you have an artistic background?
So I think that was like crucial for me to grow up in the environment of Italy, where restoration and conservation, like you can breathe it everywhere, every day in your life, because we have a very huge culture on this. So, but basically, I come from a family of carpenters and artisans. My father, I grew up seeing my father fixing things. He was not properly a restorer or conservator, but he was able to work as an artisan. So I grew up seeing like my father fixing object and surround. Like also, I think I learned also the love of preserving the object. So, and I remember that since I was a kid, like maybe 5 years old, I had a strong feeling inside of me of taking care of object. So I had the idea, I didn't know at the time, of course, like I was too little to understand that there was a job called restoration or conservation or whatever. But I remember exactly that when I saw something falling apart, was a building or object or whatever, and was old, I had a very strong feeling that I wanted to repair and take it back, not making new, but keeping at the best to preserve it for the future again, like the doctor do with the people. I think exactly the same. So I grew up with this sense, and then I study art, and finally I study restoration, and so I'm a restorer since ever, I think.
And now, so what sort of training do you need? Do you have to be an artist to be a restorer? Is that?
No, I think if you are an artist and you have a feeling to become an artist, you are not really a good restorer, because in restoration you have to know your limit. You cannot add nothing to an artwork. You have to preserve, you have to conserve, and you have, maybe when you do a reparation, for example, when we do aesthetic retouching on painting, you don't have to overpaint or repaint. You just have to feel exactly where there is the loss of color, and then making like harmonize with the rest, with the original, but you don't have to overpaint or something. And usually what I see in my career is that if they are artists in the very sense of like they want to produce artwork, they are creative, they are not really good restorer, because they always do a little bit too much, if not really much. Like
I understand. They can't sort of hold back their own creativity and
and you cannot stop them.
But so you're faced with a great work of art, and I'm sure you'll tell us which works you've done already. Isn't this a great responsibility? I mean, I always worry about people who are doing carvings, and they get up to the 90% completed, and they go, oh, whoops, I've gone wrong. I mean, don't you have this huge responsibility that you're not going to do something wrong?
Yeah. I had actually a huge responsibility. I think I'm very lucky, because in the meantime, when I do something, I'm never afraid. Like I'm really confident with my skills. And I have really a huge background, really huge, because I'm interested in many, many things. And in Italy, when I did the art school, the restoration school, sorry, was about antique. Because in the 1990, when I did the restoration school in Italy, that we are always like a little bit late for something sometimes, we were still having only schools for restoration for antique in Italy. When I finished the school, at the time, you must have to do the internship. Because the school at the time was lasting like 1 or 2 years. And then, of course, you have to do internship because you were not ready to work by yourself. So my family, they put me in the only restoration studio in all Italy, was in Milan, where they did only modern and contemporary art conservation, because the lady, that she was Italian, she's Italian, but she studied in America at the time. So in America, they didn't have like antique. So she came back and she was, at that time, she was the only one in all Italy specialized only in modern contemporary art. And I remember that in the beginning, I was shocked because it was totally new. And in modern and contemporary art, the artists, they use any kind of material and they put it together. And sometimes they don't even know what they took, like they just follow the feeling at the moment, like to make something. So you have really to learn to preserve and to conserve many kind of different material and damages. So I really build up. I'm lucky because in the very beginning, I was feeling very pity and I didn't want to stay in the studio of this lady, but then I start to be passionate and I like it and I build up a very huge experience. So anytime I have something very valuable like the Raden Saleh painting in Kraton, Yogyakarta, or the giant painting of Lee Man Fong in Hotel Indonesia, in the moment when they give me the job, like I'm not feeling any, I'm not afraid. I know that I will do a good job. I'm really sure. Sometimes happen that after a year or something, after I finish, after everything, and I see the picture, sometimes there is like, for a second, I'm like, oh my goodness, I did that.
Now, the skills that you have, as you said, I mean, obviously there are different skills with watercolors or gouache or oils, or I mean, you actually have amazing
material,
different.
yeah.
You need to know your materials very well, right?
Yeah. And this is a never finished learning. It's like you constantly have to learn something. I'm in touch, I'm very lucky because in Italy, I'm in touch with a chemist. His name is Leonardo Borgioli, and he works for over 30 years in Italy for my government. I think the Italian government, the Department of Fine Art, I think they are one of the best in the world to preserve, to have regulation for preserving the cultural heritage and art. So this man, he's working for the conservation field as a chemist for over 30 years. So means that he's inventing also sometimes method and new materials. So he's one of my good friends. I'm always in touch with him because you always have to learn something. There is always something new, especially in Indonesia where there are not yet like professional conservator. We are in the very beginning here for this field. And so there are many cases where I don't have any data to compare or to understand. So I'm constantly in touch with this person to double check what I'm doing, or if there is any new material that I can use, how to use it, why something happens so quickly or whatever to the material. It's very interesting.
So look, you are sitting in Indonesia, in Jakarta at the moment. Yeah. Why Indonesia?
Why Indonesia?
The whole world was your oyster. You're coming from Italy with all of its marvelous art. You've learned from an expert. You've got the skill, and here you are in Indonesia. Why?
Yeah, I think because I was in love with Indonesia. The first time I came to Indonesia in 2006 for an art exhibition. I was like with a friend that she's a curator, and she was curating an exhibition of an Italian artist in Ubud in Bali. back then in 2006, there was the art gallery called Gaia Fusion. So she was curating an exhibition over there, and she invited me and other two friends to come over just to see Indonesia. And I remember in 2006, we didn't have the tablet or the iPhone like we do now, and we Google everything. So me, myself, I almost never bought like a Lonely Planet or whatever. I just go and explore. At that time, I didn't speak any English, and I think I only left Italy to go to London or Paris or whatever, like in Europe. So it was my first, no, it was my second international flight, actually. The first time was the year before in Australia. So I just arrived in Bali, and was October. And for me I didn't know nothing about Indonesia or Bali or whatever. People, they were not really into that things at the time. Like now everybody in the world want to go to Bali, but at the time it was not like popular yet. So I arrived in Bali, and I remember it was the beginning of the rainy season. There were the kite in the sky. There was this amazing culture. It was not so crowded still. It was still Bali, the beautiful Bali. I remember in Seminyak, okay, we have to have the progress, no? But at the time in Seminyak was surrounded by a rice field. I remember it was amazing. Also, Ubud was still really local. And I was totally in love, but I was thinking that I didn't speak any other language rather than Italian. I was doing art restoration already, and all the people in Bali were doing restaurant, food, or clothing, or ceramic. So I was thinking that I was the last one to have any chance to do a job in Indonesia, in Bali. So, by the way, at the time, we met Susanna Perini with Biasa Art Space in 2006. We keep in touch. We came to visit the gallery. And then in 2010, I got the chance to leave Italy because I wanted to go away. I had the feeling that I didn't belong to Italy. I'm very grateful to my country for the skills in conservation, because I think it's very peculiar from Italian people, that one. But I was not feeling that was my place in somehow. So in 2010, I got the chance to go to Bali, to try to live in Bali. And actually, Susanna, she gave me a job as a restorer for her gallery. So because she said that she wanted to have somebody to take care, because there was a huge lack of conservation. There was nobody doing conservation in Indonesia. So she wanted to have a conservator for her collection and the collection of the clients. So I was working with Susanna until 2012 and in Bali. And then I came back to Europe, and by chance I had to stay in Europe for 3 years because I had near that deadly car accident in Egypt. I was doing diving in Egypt, and then I had a huge car accident. So I almost died, and I recovered. I took a long time to recover. Finally, I came back in 2015 because I had a really strong feeling that I had to go back to Bali. I think all of us, we know that if we love Bali, if you love Indonesia, when you are away, you feel like too lonely. You have to go back.
You're here in Indonesia. There is a demand for your services, obviously. What are the works that you've done here that you're most proud of? Do you feel that people are lining up to get their artworks restored? Because one of the things that I know about Indonesia is that maintenance is not a great thing, whether it be houses or cars or machinery or artwork.
Yeah, it's still a challenge. It's still a challenge for them to understand that you have to take care. But so I came back in 2015, and then I moved to Java from Bali, because I tell you a little bit story so you can understand better what I'm saying later about this topic for the conservation. So in 2015, Biasa Art Space was already closed, but Susanna, she was so generous, and she said, like, if you want to go ahead with your project, I still have your equipment, you can take it and go ahead, like do it. So I moved to Java, and then I team up with Sarasvati, the art magazine that at the moment is like frozen. They are not active at the moment. And I'm working with them. So we established the restoration in Java, because in Java there are more like collectors and museum. So I'm in Java since 2016 already. I start with, in the beginning, I did a lot of seminar and workshop all over Java, in Bandung, in Borobudur, in Jakarta, with the Italian Institute of Culture, with ITB Bandung, to introduce this concept of conservation to the people, to talk in general. In 2016, I did with Patriski Zailani, that is one of the permanent curator of Gallery National in Jakarta and a lecturer in ITB Bandung. He organized in August 2016 in ITB the very first workshop ever had in Indonesia, with somebody that was me in that case, talking to the people, to the student, with a slideshow saying, okay, this is conservation, with a slideshow with my restoration work from Italy, the photo before and after, to show why and when and which cases you need like to do conservation, to do reparation on something. And I remember that the room like was totally full with people like very interested. So that was like the first seed that we planted. And then I did like a lot of workshop and seminar for 2 years. And then I start to work again as a restorer, like in the studio with Lynch Away and with the restoration studio that we still have now. So I saw also in the collectors and in the government also is growing the sense of need, like we need conservation, is growing more and more. So it's not yet that you have a lineup of clients, but there are more and more private collector and institutional collection that they are looking to do something to preserve. So, and this is very good. I'm very happy, because I think the people, they start to understand that the collection that they have, now they have like something that is really valuable, because in Indonesia we have several maestro. They are not so many compared maybe to Europe or America, but they start to have like several people that they are already passed away, like Affandi, Sujoyono, whatever, Hendra Gunawan, and many others. If you have artwork of these people, of course, sooner or later you need some conservation, because it's impossible to get anything in life, even ourselves. We constantly go to the salon, to the doctor for checkup or whatever, no? Everything in life you have to fix. So sooner or later, if you want to preserve your artwork, that in the meantime became so valuable because these people that they pass away, so they are not producing anymore, and they became maestro of Indonesia. So you have to do something. It's impossible to think that for a lifetime you don't do nothing. And it's very important to have professional people, because still I see is a huge challenge for Indonesian culture to really dive and understand what is the conservation. So I still see a lot of additional damage, like they try to do something, but they don't have yet the right background. So end up with more damage in somehow.
That's very sad. But look, we have got a lot of collectors, private collectors, who have put together amazing collections, both of international and local art. Yeah. Presumably, they are looking after them as well as they can. You've got Museum Machan, you've got so many of them. They
start to understand they really need professional care. But they start to really ask to do something. And my job in Indonesia, honestly, is not only do my job and that's it. Is also, I always try to educate the people. Like, for example, now I'm really pushing as much as I can the collector to to have a dehumidifier system, and I'm very proud to say that Kraton Yogyakarta is the first that they bought. We have an Indonesian company in Jakarta. They produce already for 40 years or something, aircon, and now they produce also dehumidifier portable. So we team up and we say, like, because it's still difficult to import the dehumidifier system from outside. So they start to produce the dehumidifier in Jakarta. So if you need a spare part or whatever, they are here. They are really professional. And Kraton was the first client. They bought customized dehumidification system combined with the air condition, of course, because it is crucial to control also the humidity, not only the temperature. With the aircon, you only control the temperature, but you cannot control the humidity. So the dehumidifier system is controlling the humidity to keep the climate in a steady level that is very good for the artwork. So the first is Kraton. They already made, is already ready. They are finishing to prepare the Ruang Lukisan, the museum, for the painting. And later, I don't know the date, but later they are getting ready to open to public again and to show also the Raden Saleh. The second one is Hotel Indonesia Kempinski, to preserve the Lee Man Fong, the giant masterpiece of Lee Man Fong that I did the restoration last year. I finished last year. They also already start to implement with the dehumidifier system. And I do the same with the collector, the private collector. I always try to teach them how to preserve, even without me. Like I told them also when they go for framing, for example, to ask to the frame shop to have, if you have to frame something valuable, to have acid-free material for framing. Now they are available in Indonesia, all the acid-free material for framing, thanks to an Indonesian company. So there are not excuses, it's just about education. I think will take a little bit of time still, because it's really new concept for everybody here. But I can see the people, they really start to understand that they need.
So have you got people that you are training to spread this? I mean, we've got a huge country, we've got artists everywhere, we've got communities of them all over the country. They need presumably lots and lots of people like you with your skills. Is there anyone being trained now?
Yeah, there are some students, they start to ask like to be trained. Actually, before the pandemic, with the Italian Institute of Culture, we try to get in touch like more and more with ITB Bandung to have a course, a program, a study program for conservation. And then the pandemic came over, so everything was stuck in the middle. And then I had a year training with 2 students graduated in ITB Bandung. We had to pause to hold on the training because of the pandemic, and also because I think we have to approach in a different way the training, because I understand that even if the people sometimes they really have the great passion to do this job, they when it's time to do the job, they don't have the feeling. So if you don't have the feeling, means that, for example, when you clean too much, you clean also something that is original. You don't, I see that it's still very difficult for them to understand. This is about painting conservation, because, for example, this morning I was thinking that if it's about ceramic, it's more easy, because it's more like a mechanic things that you have to put together again. And but for the painting, it's a little bit more difficult, maybe because if you don't know what you are doing, if you don't have the feeling exactly what you are doing, what you have to clean, for example, or when you have to do the retouching, you do too much. When you do too much means that you wash away something, or you overpaint something, or maybe you do, I see sometimes people in Indonesia still doing like a consolidation or relining. with completely wrong material. I mean, they use maybe material and method that we used 30 years ago. And if you are a professional conservator, you know that now we have much better material and we will never use that one again in our life because they were not, now we try to use as much as possible material that they are reversible, not yellowing, not aging, and we have. You have to know how to use it. So what I see at the moment is it's still difficult for them to understand where to stop when they do the restoration. So sometimes I saw that they clean it too much or they overdo something. And there is no way to teach this one. Like, you have to have the feeling. I feel is the lack of the culture in art history. Because something that I noticed in Indonesia, there is not yet a course, a school program to teach art history. If you want to become an art historian, you have to go abroad to study. They study art history in the school, in the art academy in Indonesia, but it's just like by choice. Like, if you want, you can have also some little lessons, some lesson about art history, but there is not I told you, like, if you want to become an art historian, you have to study abroad. At the moment, there is no any course here. I think this is a huge lack, especially if you want to become a conservator, because if you don't understand, if you don't have the sense of the history and the material and everything that they used before and now, how can you understand when you do something on a painting, what is the limit between the damage, the dirty, or the original? Because I really see that they don't see the limit.
There's a whole new world starting up, which we'll have another conversation about another time, called the NFT world, which does not require restoration, which could be a whole different approach to life. You make your artwork, you make an NFT, and you're done. You don't need to have any dehumidification, air conditioning, or restoration. But that's another story altogether, rather a humorous one in this concept. What's your next challenge? We have to wrap this up. What's your next challenge personally? What do you want to achieve in the next year, 2, 5, or 10?
I would like to find a way to really make the correct cultural basement to build up for the conservation study for Indonesian people. I think Indonesian people, they are not yet ready to jump immediately to a restoration school, for example, that in Europe, by the way, is 5 years now, 5 years university course, five. I think they are not ready, but I think my goal is, like, if I can find the key, like what is the real lack of something, I don't know if it's art history or something, if I really can build like this basement, so from that step, then the student, they are ready to really apply and roll up in a conservation school here or abroad, I will be very, very happy.
There's 2 points that come out of that. I couldn't agree with you more. Just from my own experience, number one, there is no sense of history itself. So you have a street like Braga in Bandung, which was an intact Art Deco street when I arrived and has been systematically decomposed by development. So people are fascinated by the new and really not interested in the past. The second point is that money motivates everybody. So I think perhaps the approach that you might take with your collectors, with your owners, with your museums, is you're losing value with everything that you do wrong, and the value will disappear. You can go from $100 million down to zero by letting your work disintegrate. So my approach to sustainability has been to look at it from a value base rather than from caring for the planet. So maybe we have to just be practical and say people have different motivations, but we'll find the key. But you have the skills to make that happen. Michaela, I'm delighted to have spoken to you today. It won't be the last time we speak, but on behalf of now Jakarta, now Bali, and MVP, very big thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.